Welcome to the Victorian Parent Council VPC Parent Podcast Series. VPC is a registered charity organisation dedicated to everyone who support parents in educating their children. I'm Jacqui Van de Velde, your host today.
So I think with all of this too, you speak a lot about parent self-care.
Yes.
So what do they need to do, in your opinion, to look after themselves?
Yeah, I love to talk to parents about in-charge energy. And I learned a lot about in-charge energy when I was working in alternative learning schools. And oftentimes these were schools where kids had been kicked out of regular schooling for all sorts of reasons, but oftentimes for behaviour issues. And I would have a security guard come with me and lock me in and out of classrooms and walk with me. And they were really delightful places. But oftentimes I'd go into classrooms that were just wild with poor behaviour, really. And it was my job to sort of rein it in and get kids focused and work with them. Now, I soon realised if I didn't come to work with in-charge energy, I was going to get absolutely railroaded. And I feel like when we parent, when our resources are low and completely depleted, our kids know it. You know, and it makes it so much harder to do three things. And the first thing is, it's harder to emotionally engage with kids when you're exhausted. You just want to get the task done, but not enjoy the journey oftentimes. And you don't have as much tolerance for the emotion that goes with it. The second thing that it's harder to do when you don't have in-charge energy is set realistic expectations. We're often overly demanding as parents when we don't have good energy, or we throw out like 5 or 6 expectations at once, and it's just not realistic. And the third thing that's really hard to do when you haven't got in-charge energy is just kick those requests over the line. A bit of yes mum, yes dad. You know, you just don't have that presence there to help you kick your requests over the line. And so when parents feel like their in-charge energy is just depleting, you know, the best thing to do is just take your foot off the pedal with your kids and just do whatever you can do to just charge yourself up a little bit so you can come back to the task with great energy. And if that means leaving, you know, Dad, look after a kid who's crying for a minute, or if that means, you know, just walk away and do it, because that's going to enable you to come back in a better space.
Yeah, no, that's so important. I think too, you know, Kylie, I think we've got a question from Kylie, which I'll come back to in a second. But Michelle, I think it's important that we actually, you know, take small steps towards that in-charge energy.
Yeah.
You know, that we don't expect to have it all at the same time. And if we don't do it, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't get so hard on yourself.
And if you're getting to the end of the day and you're feeling like you just completely depleted again, keep lowering the expectations till you get to the end of the day and go, you know what, I did the 2 things in my list, which was have a cup of coffee and put my feet up and make the bed, or whatever it be. Just get the list of to-dos or must-dos down low enough that you can feel some satisfaction at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that's so important. I remember, you know, when the kids were little, when you first had them, when your first child came home, and you're thinking, how do I do this? And you're thinking, gee, I had to really lower my expectations, you know. It was a good day if I had the washing out on the line by 11 o'clock and I was out of my pyjamas.
100%.
You know? And in times like this, maybe we have to go back to, you know, some of those coping mechanisms that we had when the kids were little, you know.
And I feel like as we get back to kind of a full speed rhythm here, it's maybe just introducing one new thing every day rather than just going from 0 to 100. It'll just evolve, and that's okay.
Yeah. I like the idea too of having a game plan that you share your game plan with a friend. You text what you aim to do in the day to each other, and then as you do each one, just send a little fist pump to say, you know, I've done that. Check, and so at least you keep the humour in it. You know,
it's great.
Keep each other honest as well. Yeah,
absolutely, that's fantastic.
Listen, we've got some lovely comments here. That's why I sort of saw Kylie's comment pop up. That's why I said Kylie. I love that. I love that. Yes, this time has been a time for learning compassion, understanding social responsibility, feelings and needs, and it really has. And I think parents are in that unique opportunity to be able to have those conversations that only parents can have, really.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something, you know, friendships may be different when kids go back. They might be a bit unsettled for a little while. It might be a little bit up and down, but I think we need to reassure ourselves as parents that overarching, every up and down that our kids have at school is this safe place called home. And when they have the stability of home behind them, the ups and downs of life are actually not so bad for them. You know, it's actually good for them in the experience of their life when they have a firm and strong foundation.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And look, we've got another lovely comment here. Due to the limited number of returning students, my 10-year-old daughter has had to forge new friendships, often with boys, as very few girls attended.
Yes.
This opportunity built her confidence with boys her
That's
age.
so good.
I know.
Yay.
Isn't that wonderful?
I'm hearing lots of this. I'm honestly hearing lots of this. And as all kids come back to school now, I mean, I would be encouraging her to even go one step further and to look to talk to other kids that she's never spoken to before and cross some of those social borders. I think that's so exciting.
Yeah, and the downside, though, is that she is grieving the loss of some friendships.
Yeah,
now.
that's right. And let's talk about this. It doesn't have, gratitude and grief can coexist. So we can be really sad that we've lost some friendships during this time and haven't got to see our friends, and we can be really grateful for the new friendships we've formed. It doesn't have to be either or, one or the other. Because sometimes we sort of talk about gratitude like the cure-all, when we say things like, I haven't been able to see my friends, but aren't you lucky you still get to go to school? And it just puts a blanket over that grief. I think the beauty of the human spirit is its ability to adapt and to feel both things. And that's really a great comment to showcase that.
Yeah, and there's another part to that comment saying that now that more boys are back and the girls have returned, she's now sort of grieving the friendships that she formed with the boys while the other girls were away.
That's right. And this is the adjustment, isn't it, again? It's that adaptation and adjustment again. They're doing great, aren't they? Aren't we proud of them? They really are doing great.
Yeah. And what advice can I give her to try and keep these friendships alive? Well, gosh, that's a tricky one.
Ask her to take it one step further, all right? So if some of those girls have become really great friends, maybe in the right time, she can have play date with them. Or maybe she needs to make sure that she's checking in with those girls every day, even though her new friends have come back to school. So it's really helping her keep tabs on it. And this is where it teaches them to be open-hearted to more than one group of people. And so oftentimes our kids have got besties or enemies and nothing in between because they're very rigid in their thinking when it comes to people. But this is just a great opportunity for them to be inclusive. I love it.
Exactly. Look, I've just got another question that's come through about adjusting for the hours that they're keeping at home have been a bit all
Crazy.
over the place, crazy. And spending lots of time online with friends, gaming and that sort of thing. And now we're having to go back to school routine. So what advice can you give there?
Can I reassure you that so much of this is going to find its natural landing place, but it's going to take a minute. So I think we can, just like when we went into this whole, we've got a homeschool thing, we tried to structure days and to control everything. And I think as parents, when we feel like things are out of control, that's what we do. We try and timetable, schedule, put rules in place. But I feel like this is going to take its natural step down if we just give it a little bit of a minute. Kids are going to get physically tired from being at school. They're going to need to go to bed earlier. I think now's a really good time to start to just reduce screen time, but I think if you go from all to nothing straight away, you're going to have all hell break out in your home. So just realize that everything's heightened right now and it's going to find its landing place.
No, that's good advice. And just to our people who are online, if you would like to ask a question, please do so via the chat, and we will ask those questions. I've got people sending them to me to all of the group and also to me privately. So either way, it pops up on my screen and I get to see them. So I've got another question here to Kylie about. Michelle. Gosh, Kylie's prolific. Kylie, keep typing. My child has done really well learning from home, and they're going to find it difficult now to go back because they weren't doing so well when they were in face-to-face.
Yes, yeah.
So do you have some advice or just what have you heard from other parents?
Yeah,
and also
exactly the same thing. The challenge is that this kind of quiet environment at home where children have had parents that are accessible to them, for the day, kids have just thrived in it. And what child wouldn't? I mean, seriously, what child wouldn't bloom with someone who loves them, is connected to them, puts their needs first all day? What child wouldn't bloom? And then all of a sudden they have to go back into an environment, which I actually think is a really great environment, where they have to, negotiate their needs with 30 other kids and a teacher, and yet still come back to that safe place at night. And so, again, it's different. For some kids, being at home on their own was just a nightmare. And then for some kids, it was heaven. So as they all go back, realise that they might feel more anxiety going back than they did going the other way. It's real. It really is real for them, The reality is that some of them will find it hard. Some of their friendships will shuffle. And we have to accept that, and we actually have to trust in their journey, that these are the things that actually grow them as human beings.
I mean, all of those, if we start looking at these as opportunities for growth, I think that's a nice frame. It doesn't make it easier.
No, it doesn't.
But it gives the uncomfortable, and the tension, a little bit of purpose. Yeah.
And let's explain it like this. When I held my children in my arms for the first time, that desire to nurture and protect them was just all-consuming and overwhelming. And that's the way we're wired. That's how nature intended it to be. But the intensity of that feeling can actually get in the way of our children's development when we don't recognise that their life is their own gift and that their journey is critical to them, and that if we don't trust in that, we're actually going to meddle with their development.
Yeah, no, that's an important point. I often say, look, I think when I'm talking with groups of parents, it's we get caught up in the child raising, and in actual fact what we're doing is raising adults.
Yes. Yeah.
So if we start with that end in mind, doesn't mean that we toughen them up or anything like that necessarily. We still love them and look after them, but if we've got in our mind that we're actually raising adults to be functional and competent adults, then these are things we've got to learn, right?
Yeah, that's right. And recognise too that how we respond to their challenges gives them cues on whether they can cope with it or not. And if we come from this place of trust in their journey and confidence in their journey, what that does is make them, first of all, say, hey, this must be normal life. Second of all, it kind of gives them the impression that we think they can handle it. And those cues are just so important for our kids.
And I think there's a real lesson there as parents, the way in which we respond to adversity. That yes, things are sad or things are difficult, but we deal with it. And the way we demonstrate how we deal with it is picked up by our kids.
Yeah, I mean, all the research tells us that resilience is learned, really, or transferred or caught, however you want to say it, by mimicking or copying or imitating. And the trick is this: even at 18 months, as human beings, we can adjust what we see and how we imitate it. And so there's this element of choice that all of our kids have, but they're much more likely to mirror and copy people they feel closely connected with. So if we're going to lean into and invest our energy anywhere, it actually should be into that connection with our child and then into our own resilience, because we're connected, and if they're mirroring us, we want to be mirroring things that are going to build strength in them.
No, that's a really good point. So we've got a comment here. Yes, opportunities for growth. I really needed to hear this. So I'm glad that we were able to help there. This lady has teens and toddlers, kindy and middle kiddos. So she's
you're a legend.
Champion mum.
All ages.
This has been a time for family team building.
No, I bet it has.
I think you've got your own team there. You've almost got a full soccer team there. I would like to ask about teacher anxiety and what do you know about how teachers are dealing with the extra stress?
Yeah.
It worries me, especially at high school where teacher-student relationships can be struggling already.
Oh my goodness. And like, if you can look after teachers as much as you can, parents, right now, because teachers, most of them, have this empathy for young people, and that's why they got into this profession. And so when all this hit and they had to transfer everything online, not only was it a logistic nightmare, but teachers were really carrying the burden emotionally for kids and what they were going to experience and go through, and they were going through it oftentimes with their own children as well. And so I have a few friends that are teachers, and they have been so stressed trying to get everything online, and then extremely stressed now thinking, is it changing? Is it going back? Is what's happening? And now they're regrouping and going back with a lot of extra burden and weight. And some of that burden comes with communicating and reassuring parents as well. And knowing that kids are going to come back into the classroom with a range of maybe heightened emotions. So anything that you can do, an email to thank them, drop them a note, a gift, those gift cards that sit in your wallet, and they're going to expire because you're not going to use them anyway, because they sit and you forget they're there. Pull them out and give them to a teacher, because those teachers are really, they have carried a lot. They really have been the heroes of this. They have been.
I would agree with you there, and I'm an ex chalky myself.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, all I could think during this period was, oh, goodness, I'm not in a school anymore. I mean, it's just the chopping and changing the whole time.
There was a frenzy about it, and that takes a toll on you emotionally. The work is in adapting.
It certainly does. And I think too, the other thing that we're concerned about, or teachers have been concerned about too, is, they often, they were dealing with their own children at home while they were teaching
100%.
our children, other children.
Yeah.
But also too, some of them are looking after elderly parents, so they were concerned about if they brought it home and if they were, potentially passed on an infection to their elderly parents, or perhaps they weren't particularly good health themselves. And
100%.
schools, we're told schools are safe, but there's always that element of doubt, isn't there?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes to all of that. And the teachers that I was in a few schools just before it that kids went home, and teachers were getting me in to talk about child protection to kids, about staying safe online, and concerned that kids would be left at home alone for long periods of time. Like, if you really think about the diversity of what teachers are really dipping into and trying to take care of. So I was going into schools talking to kids around that kind of space, and that was bringing comfort to teachers that they would know their students would go home equipped to be home alone.
No, that's that they do carry a really big burden. It's way beyond what we understand to be the curriculum, or what is the official curriculum anyway.
Yeah.
So just some other things I'm interested to hear about, some advice on.
Yes.
And, we hear about the helicopter parent, and for a whole lot of reasons, we want our children to be independent, and experience and learn their way through these challenges. But if parents have got concerns about how their child is dealing with this new normal, what are your suggestions for working through this with them?
100%. There is this line where we know we've done all we can do, and we can see our kids really struggling. And I think in times like that, it is really important for us to get an outside opinion. And sometimes when we get an outside opinion, someone reassures us that they're okay. They're okay. It's going to be okay. And then sometimes someone comes in and goes, you know what, they really are going to need some extra support to make sure they get through this okay. And that second eye is so valuable. I tell you what, teachers are very good to get a second opinion from, and sometimes we don't trust teachers enough. They're with our kids for 6 hours a day. They're seeing them in such a diverse range of environments and interacting with different students, and they're seeing them in different light, and a second opinion from teachers right now would be a really wise thing to do.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. And I think too, the other side of this is that, while parents are saying, we're not only saying to our children now, get off the devices, having been telling them to stay off devices before them, get onto devices, and now get off devices again.
Yeah.
For parents, we've been saying, step back and let your kids be kids and learn their way through the challenges. But also to, you, as you said, home is the hero and parents are the heart of the home.
Yes.
So we're saying, you need to be your child's advocate, but balancing that now without hovering the whole time is going to be...
Yeah, that's right. We've just got to realise it's going to take time and give our kids just that little bit of space. It's like going from everything to nothing. It's just not going to happen. And I think if there's ever a time for parents to dig into their own intuition and don't worry about what anyone else is doing, don't worry about what these parenting experts tell you, you know what I mean? Just throw it out the window and listen to your gut, because you know your child. And for a lot of them, not being on gaming for so many hours a day is going to be a loss for them, and they're going to feel that sense of grief if they come back in, and you know your child. And so I think it's actually really important that we give ourselves full permission to be parents, to have that time where we step up to the plate and make sure home continues to be the hero and overarches what's going on in their lives right now.
And I think that's important because I think this is actually a wonderful opportunity for parents to re-establish their authority as the experts in their children.
I do too. Yeah. And intuition is not just a gut feeling. It's not this fluffy kind of thing. It's noticing the subtle changes that other people miss. And the reason we notice them is because we know our children so deeply. That doesn't mean we have to fix them. It doesn't mean we have to rescue them. But it just is this space where we acknowledge what is, and we give them a hand to keep steady as we go along and as we move forward. Yeah. We want our kids moving in the right direction in life.
Exactly. And I think there'll be a time when, while we're very active in our role as parents, and we're always active in our role as parents. I mean, I've got older children and I'm still... People say, "Oh, you must be lucky. You're lucky. They're older." I'm going, yes. Well, it's just different.
That's right. They now have money and keys to a car.
Well, yeah, technically yes, but anyway, it's all technical. But it's just different, right? The role, you're all once a parent, always a parent. It all just changes. But what I think is lovely about this is that we're actually in a really lovely opportunity to step in, as you said, step up to the plate, but also to be able to know when we can step back and just be the curious observer.
Absolutely. And the real art of validating our kids' human experience, it's an art, because in that moment we refrain from fixing, rescuing, lecturing, teaching, and we just sit with them and acknowledge what is, and that maybe they feel sad or it feels different. And then mums, especially mums, look, zip it.
Exactly.
It's so hard because you want to have the answers for them, and you want to help push things forward. And sometimes, actually all the time, the real key in building resilience in kids is being able to help them in that moment acknowledge what is and really validate them as human beings. And it will give them confidence knowing that what they're experiencing is not abnormal and that you didn't rush to rescue them and create a drama. In fact, you went, yeah, I really get it. And if mum got through it, and if mums feel this before and got through it, then I can.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And look, we've got a few comments here. Yay, yes, use our intuition. Go for it, parents. I mean, when you knew your little one wasn't well and you took them up to the doctor, only you knew, right? So you know your child better than anybody else. Tuition, yes, wonderful. And then time to dust off the Brené Brown on parenting, I think.
Yes, she's
thanks for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Such wisdom in it, isn't it?
There certainly is. Just a question's come in about school refusers, because if they're refusing to go before,
I know.
This has been this has been fantastic for school refusers, you know, this whole experience, with its own challenges, obviously. But how do we then, you know, because I've really enjoyed this. It's been great for them.
I know. And we've got to realise for some kids how much courage it is going to take to re-enter a school setting. And we can't underestimate that. We have to actually really be able to acknowledge that for some kids this is going to take a lot of courage. And if we can take maybe the approach of there's two things I want to say. Let's say this first. It is okay for them to go back part-time part of the day. It is okay to step it in. Okay, so that is okay if that's what your child needs and their anxiety is high around this. But the other thing is this, parents, if you don't have that in-charge energy that comes into this situation saying, school started, this is what's happening, this is the way we're going. Now, we might not jump from here to here straight away, but this is the way we're going. That is going to slow the process down. So looking after yourself right now is just so important, because your kids are going to know if they can railroad you or not. And at the end of the day, we don't want to take the obstacles out of our kids' paths. It's actually so important that we don't. What we need to, and I've just got an example coming to my head. I talked to a dad a few days ago, his son, highly anxious, but highly anxious is actually getting back into his dance. And we talked around options like that, but he said to me, one thing I know that's really good for him is physical exercise. And I said to this dad, and his boy was about 10, I said, you can't compromise on that. Give him a lot of choice with it. Step him into it slowly, but you kind of need to say, this is the way we're going. And how we get there, we'll work that out as we go. But that's what in-charge energy does. It knows what's best for the lane that our kids need to go in, and it doesn't just try and remove everything out of their path.
No, exactly. And I'd say to the parents who are on tonight, who looks like we've got a couple who do have school refusers, is to actually go to the school with a plan and speak to them about how you would like to see them return to school. And under what circumstances. So you're actually, you know, entitled to negotiate an individual education plan for all of your children, for any of your children. So speak to the school about how you would like to do that, because rather than it becoming a problem, where the school's contacting you, I think my advice is to go armed with a plan. That you've spoken about with your you've spoken about with your children,
and that you know you can emotionally commit to,
exactly,
and that you feel like you can get over the line when you need to. But the how kind of just, you know, that's where you can't have such a rigid plan. You have to allow some movement.
That's right. And for those of you who are on tonight and might be interested particularly about that, we do have some VPC podcasts on school refusal.
Right.
So with Dr. Melbourne. So I'll thank you, Evelyn. Evelyn's popped that up. Good. We're obviously we're not communicating by text, I promise you. But we know that was a very interesting conversation, and he was talking about it from where it becomes clinically quite a challenging problem, but he certainly had some good advice there. But as parents, you can certainly go to the school armed with here's a plan, having spoken to your children about it. So please do that. So look, we're coming up to time, Michelle. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it's been an hour.
Chat.
I know.
Chat. Thank you for joining us.
So what I'm thinking now is look, are the two takeaway points that you would give parents as your top priority for guys? If you only do two things, this is it. As we get ready to go back to school.
Yeah, I think the first thing is just cut yourself some slack and give it some time. So if you thought next week we're all going to go back to normal routine, like try and go maybe in a month's time we'll feel like we've got normal routine. So just lower that expectation on yourself just a little bit and realise that it's going to take a while for kids' friendships to land, and realise again that even if they go through ups and downs outside of the home, that you can be that overarching support for them during this time, and that is enough. It really is.
No, that's lovely, and so I think we've had some great wisdom here tonight. Wonderful chat with you, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate.
We really appreciate that, and great participation from our audience tonight. It's lovely to have you all on with us. Great comments, and I think that go parents, you're doing a great job.
Doing a great job. Amazing
job. Amazing job. So just to wrap up, we'd love to have more of these. So we'll hopefully, Michelle, you can come back and talk to us again.
I would love to. If everyone would like to have me back, I would love to.
Oh yes, definitely. I think so. But also to parents who are on, if you have not checked out the new and improved and really flash website for the Victorian Parents Council.
Oh, it's really nice.
It is nice, isn't it? I know that it's been, I think we said before, it's been a long birth, this one, but it's very much it's been worth the effort. So lots of resources on there. So parents, take a look. And also too, we're very keen to continue parents engaging in this conversation around school and around home learning at home. And there are some polls that the Victorian Parents Council has been running over this period, and I really encourage you to have your say there, so that we do keep our finger on the pulse and understand what you're going through, and so that you know too that the updated, I think we took it took time, I think around the 12th of May, and actually put a report together and sent that through to the Premier, to the Minister for Education and other people within government to say, look, this is the voice of parents. So so your voice is being heard, parents, and it's an important way to communicate that through bodies like the Victorian Parents Council. So folks, I'm going to wrap up here. So thank you very much for being with us. It's lovely having you online. And Michelle, once again, thank you so much. Very gracious with your time. It's lovely to have you with us tonight.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely to see you. Bye-bye now. Bye, everyone.
Thank you to our guest speaker. We hope you enjoyed today's topic. Want to know more about this podcast and other VPC podcasts? Please visit the VPC website, vicparentscouncil.vic.edu.au, and leave a review. We would also welcome you to contact us if you would like to be our guest, or if you have a topic around parenting and education. Thank you to Melbourne singer Emma Sidney for her permission to use her soundtrack, Cherish. Until next time, thank you for listening.